Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to Robocraft with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome to the Proto Seeker update, the newest update to hit Robocraft, which, as you imagine, has added the Proto Seeker weapon. As you can see right here, the Proto Seeker. Now this fires plutonium-seeking bolts that lock onto a target, which basically means, in a way, it is a Gatling laser which targets enemies. It has a lock-on feature very similar to the missile system, the lock-on missile launcher. However, it does not take any time to lock on. As soon as you target the enemy, you are indeed locked on. You can fire away, and from what I've seen so far, the lock-on is pretty effective. Almost every shot will hit. The shots themselves are incredibly quick, very similar to the laser shots, which is pretty darn awesome. They cost 100 pflops or 100 CPU and 2.5 million RP. For their CPU cost, that does make them pretty cheap, not overly expensive, but in terms of their actual CPU usage, it is quite a big chunk of your available resources, so using them, you may have to work around having them rather than simply having them as a secondary or third weapon just because you have the space for it. In terms of size, they are very small. They have one block they're attached to by default, which of course is very similar to the rotor blades. This singular block, if I just put it up here, can connect in 5 different faces all the way along the horizontal axis and then once underneath, making them very sturdy and very hard to knock off unless you're directly attacking the gun itself. Now, it does have the lock-on feature. It is pretty darn difficult to knock out without actually targeting the guns, but it does have one major negative. It has the weakest alpha strike in the game of any weapon that actually deals damage. You're not going to be hurting things very easily with this gun. It is specifically against shields, as it does extra damage versus shields. Now, I'm not sure if that includes the shields included on mech legs. I do believe it does, but I'm not certain about that. I did ask for some clarification, but I have not yet got a message about that. I will be posting it in the description if I have an update about that in the future. So it doesn't really do much damage at all. If you have 5 of them, it shoots 20 shots per second, and even with that, it does sort of feel like you're throwing little needles at the enemy. A lot of people have likened it to the Halo Needler, which is very, very apt indeed. Very, very similar. I think it's a really cool gun. After playing a couple of battles with it, however, I have found it a little bit lacking. I don't think I'll be using it all that much, but it is quite a fun weapon, which doesn't really require much forethought or effort to get well. It just does well by itself. If you're using it, you're probably using it to its optimum efficiency. There are certainly things you can do to improve your gameplay, which I've obviously not yet had a chance to test out, but it's very easy to hit things. As you can see, the homing feature, you're going to be hitting the target. It's almost guaranteed. But let's just get close to this fellow over here, if he will participate for our little test. Maybe not. Come on, guys, fear me, or fight me even. I want to show the damage off. So, with my power bar at full, with 5 of these weapons currently attached, here is the full volley. And as you can see, it's not exactly that impressive, and that's against quite a small enemy. Where this thing really shines, though, is very fast-moving flyers, things like Tesseracts, other drone types, very small traditional flyers, and even very quick helicopters. This thing is going to be hitting them, even if they're trying to be very, very evasive. And honestly, that is where this thing shines, in my opinion. Let's quickly have a go at these things' legs. Are those mega legs or regular legs? Either way, very big and very scary. And I'm out of power, and we take him out with relative ease. Oh, the shield is down, so it does seem like it does affect the mech leg shields, and I would say it actually does, but once again, until I get clarification, I don't really want to go on record saying it definitely does. So that is the Proto Seeker. How are you going to be using this weapon? I'm actually really curious as to the uses of this particular gun, as I personally haven't yet decided on what bots I'm going to install it, if any, and how I'm going to be using them them in battle? Am I going to rely on it as a main weapon? Very unlikely. Or am I going to take the space and just accept the cost of the gun and have it as a secondary weapon purely to counter very close range, very quick opponents? Of course, it is still fairly good at long range. It's not exactly going to get any weaker shooting at someone nice and far away, but it does seem to excel very fast, very close. So, what other changes have hit us in the patch? Back in the mothership, so what other changes have occurred in the patch? The first change, the newest implementation in the patch, is the center robot button, which can either be accessed via pressing the button manually or pressing the corresponding hotkey. Once you do this, in theory the robot is then centered in your bay. However, I have found with certain robots, it doesn't quite work correctly, so please bear that in mind to avoid building a completely asymmetrical robot because you didn't realise that when you centered the robot it wasn't quite in the middle, as I can certainly see myself doing that. I really think this needs a couple more bug fixes before I'll be using it constantly, because I am the kind of person who would very easily miss that and end up building the bot a little bit slanted on one side. The rest of the changes I will be covering are all to do with improvements to things which already exist, or balance changes, once again to things which already exist in the game. There have been several bug fixes as well. If you would like to see them, please refer to the link in the description, which is the full patch notes. So the first change comes with the disc shield module and the blink module. Both of these items have had their health increased to almost double, the blink module going from 5,000 all the way to 9,100 health, and the disc shield module going from 6,100 to 11,160. I may have missed off the end of a couple of them there, but you get the general idea. The disc shield module no longer uses 50 power to be used, but instead uses 40, and the blink module uses 65, down from 70. The blink module cooldown has gone down to 25, down from 30, meaning you can use it a lot more often, or at least a little bit more often really. It's not a massive change, but it will make it a little bit more useful. So with these changes, I have been told by people playing in the higher rankings of the game, in the ranked battle arena, that the disc shield module was already incredibly powerful, so lowering the shield usage, the power usage for the shield rather, might be a little bit curious when it comes to the actual game itself, as the disc shield has been generally considered a very good item already. The blink module, I personally do believe it did need a bit of a buff, as although it was quite flashy and quite cool, people weren't really getting that much out of it, especially since it is a whopping almost 300 CPU. If we have a quick look here, the blink module is 285 and the disc shield module is 295. That's a very expensive item to be adding to your robot, and if you're not getting that much out of it, although it is incredibly fun, it's not really too fair. But of course, we will see if this is actually good for balance or worse for balance in the coming weeks. When changes first happen, it's not so easy to see if it's going to have a negative or a positive impact. The rest of the changes really are all to do with improvements to items which already exist. Overclocking in test mode now goes to 15, which is actually really good. I wasn't going to mention this, but I do think that is really good if you're testing out robots for Battle Arena. Of course, now Battle Arena, you can go to 15. The aeroflak explosions no longer explode if it's not going to deal damage, and aerofoils are now a lot more stable. Both if some of them get destroyed, they are more stable and try and keep your thing flying, but also they are now less twitchy. I think that is really good because some of the flyers I've been making recently have been absolutely insane, even though I know for a fact they would have worked before the maximum loadout patch. So perhaps I'll try my hand again, making a couple of jets and seeing if that's really helped out. And with that, that's all I'm going to be covering. If you'd like to see more, like I say, the link will be in the description for the full patch notes, and if I have missed anything, please let me know. I will put it in the description. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video and found it helpful, then of course likes, favourite, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly shows that Robocraft is something you wish to see continued in the future. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.